This agent closed 54 deals in her first year in a brand new market entirely from strategic networking, entirely for free. So if you're looking to take your business to the next level this year and close more deals, but don't have the money to invest into paid ads or don't want to be prospecting, this is the strategy for you. Now, in this interview, Jas breaks down the exact way that she tapped into different communities of people just like her so that you can do the same, where you can work with your ideal clients straight out the gate and have a ton of fun while building your business. And she also breaks down how to find those communities and how to approach those networking events. Because let's face it, if you're like me, I don't want to be going and handing out business cards to a ton of people, and nobody does because it feels salesy. But she approached it in a very non-salesy way where people loved to refer her business and helped her scale to, again, 54 deals in her first year in this brand new market. So two quick things before bringing on Jas. Number one, I will link her content below so that you can check it out for yourself and see what we're referring to. And number two, I will link her calendar below in case you would like to get her support for free to take your business to the next level. So let's talk all things real estate networking strategies so that you can have a roadmap of how to scale your business and connect with a ton of people. Because at the end of the day, in real estate, the more people you know and the more people who know you, the more deals you close. So coming into this year, let's show you the roadmap of how to get your ideal clients coming directly to you at scale for free. All right, Jas, well, super excited to have you on here. Finally, I know we've talked about it for quite some time, but this is going to be a conversation that I think is going to relate to a lot of people. There's this stigma in real estate where you have to spend a lot of money to make money, but
Mhm.
you've been able to tap into different networking strategies based on who you authentically are to build a wildly successful business. So really excited to dive into that. But before doing so, just give yourself a quick introduction, who you are, where you're from, and what got you here.
Great. Thank you for having me on the channel, Mike. I really do appreciate the opportunity. So, I'm originally from Toronto. I moved out to St. John, New Brunswick about 17 years ago. I'm an IT professional by trade. Have always worked with IT companies. And about 6 years ago, I decided to do real estate part time. So, I started as a part time agent, keeping my IT job full time. Then I did that for about 6 months and realized, okay, I don't think I'm actually doing justice to my clients in real estate or my employer. So I had to choose one between the two. I gave it a lot of thought, and I just wasn't ready to give up real estate because that's what I thought. I was passionate about. I loved doing it. I loved helping people. So I had to make that tough choice and leave the corporate world about 6 years ago now. I remember sitting with my director and he shaking his head and say, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah, it's a decision that I'm going to take. It's my decision. Yes, it comes with risks, but I think I'm ready to do it. And if it doesn't work out, at least then I know I tried." So yeah, I took the leap of faith and did that, pulled the trigger, and never looked back since. So anybody looking to get into real estate, I think if you're passionate about it, passionate about helping people, properties, yeah, you will excel at it. It's a business where you get what you put in. So I did real estate on my own for about 2 years. Then I started a team because I felt like I was starting to burn out. I needed more resources, and yeah, so I have a team now in New Brunswick, and I'm licensed in Ontario and New Brunswick. So I practice in both provinces. So that. Gives me an opportunity to help people who are either looking to move from one province to the other or looking to invest, let's say in New Brunswick, but they are in Ontario. So it definitely has extended our portfolio. And yeah, in a nutshell, that's who we are as JC Realty team.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's two really critical concepts to unpack there. And I had the same experience when I quit my corporate job. They, always told me, well, at least you've got engineering to fall back on. But for me, it's, I'm going to make plan A work. There's no plan B.
Right.
Um, But looking at what you talked about, there's kind of that transition from part-time to full-time, and then also the transition when it comes to relocation. So I'd love to dive into both of those because those are two very common scenarios people are facing.
Mhm.
Starting with part-time to full-time. That seems to be very daunting for a lot of people. I did the same as you. I was part-time for a month or 2 months and then
Yeah.
went full-time. But many people are concerned about making that jump and then not being able to make ends meet. What was it like for you in terms of making that decision, but then executing after that to make sure that you're able to stay afloat?
Yeah, I think it was the commitment because as you said, I didn't want to fall back on plan B. This was my plan A and I had to make it work. And there was a lot of eyes on me and all I promised myself is if I do this, I have to be successful. So, the first 6 months when I started full time in September. So yes, we were getting into our slow season, but that gave me a perfect opportunity to go start cold calling. I went and saw a lot of businesses. I cold called convenience stores, gas stations, restaurants, you name it. So in my first year, I closed 54 deals. That was my first full time year. And out of that, about 30% were commercial. So, how I got commercial deals, like in the St. John area, the first 2 years I was in real estate, most of the convenience stores that closed were part of either I had a buyer or I listed it and sold it. So people started to actually call me convenience store queen. And I didn't see that happening, but it just happened because when you put your effort in, I have never seen a business person fail if you're putting the right effort. So yeah, the transition again, it was a lot of efforts put in, but I did get a lot of rewards. So I was very happy after my first year.
Definitely. That's an incredibly successful first year, and you've got a lot to be proud of. And I want to come back to a couple things about that. But first, I would like to also talk about that transition to a new market because there's so many people that, have an ecosystem where they're from, and then they'll move to a new market and, they're starting from scratch. So when you moved to a new market, what did you do to start to build relationships in that market and, build such incredible momentum in your first year?
Yeah, so when we moved from Toronto to here, we moved with a toddler and a baby who are in university now and high school, almost done high school. So I'm talking like long, long time ago. But it's always daunting, right? Moving to a new province with kids and family when you don't know anybody. So first 6 months it was a bit hard because you were getting to know the culture, getting to know people, and so forth. But for us, I think the big thing is I'm very extrovert. I'm social. I love helping people. Doesn't matter what I do for living. So I got involved in our community, the East Indian community here in St. John. I got involved in the Newcomer Center. I volunteer at the YMCA. So I think you have to put yourself out there when you are new to any community because in Atlantic Canada is full of friendly people. People are there to accept who you are. You just have to put yourself out there and say, "Hey, we're here, we're new." And I'm telling you, people will just, put their hand out and help you and your family, no problem.
Yeah, definitely. And I would love for you to kind of explain how you went about finding the right communities to be a part of because so many people will sit here and say, I know I need to build relationships. I know that I need to get myself out there, but like, where? What do I do? Where do I go? How do I find these ecosystems and environments to be a part of? So, when you moved to St. John, were you going on certain websites to find that out? Were you talking to people? Like, how did you start to find some of these networks to be a part of?
Yeah, so I'm talking 2007, 2008. It wasn't very sophisticated back then. We didn't
Yeah.
have the resources that you have now, which is great because right now you have WhatsApp networking groups, you have Facebook, you have Twitter. You have a lot of resources behind you. When we moved here, and I say that to a lot of people when I see somebody who is new and they get overwhelmed and they have a hard time, and I say, listen, just go to your kid's school. There's so many volunteers. Just start from there. There's a lot of volunteer opportunities. Go sign up with lunch programs. If they need teachers need help for crafts or fun days, go do that because that's where you start meeting more people. Go to YMCA. They're always looking for newcomer mentors. I mentor MBA students at the University of St. John. So those are the places they are full of networking channels. You just need to go start and don't be overwhelmed. It's not that you have to do everything right away. Start with one thing. maybe say, okay, I'm going to start going to the YMCA, join a gym there. And once you go to the gym, you see a lot of new people, same people every time over and over, right? So that's where you start to build your network. And before you know it, you are such a core piece of network here. So in the community here now, for example, we do, like our team, we host mortgage sessions, real estate sessions, we mentor MBA students, we mentor newcomers, and I actually take people for groceries sometimes. If they're so new, they don't know what to do in the community, they don't have a car, I said, just hop on in my car. I'll help you with the first run, right? Just go over some basics with them. And all it is if you give that to the community will definitely give a lot back to you.
Yeah, I completely agree. And being that servant leader and putting relationships first is so important because when people start networking, they're often going in with that immediate gratification perspective of just saying, how quickly can I get a deal from this man or woman?
Yeah.
Instead of serving, they're always selling. And that kind of brings me to an important question because I see some people that will start to put themselves out there and they're networking, and it's kind of like open houses. They host open houses but come away empty-handed, or they go to networking events and they come away empty-handed.
Yeah.
As you started to immerse yourself in these communities, how did you start to then make it known that you're a realtor and then also be able to end up building, client relationships with people in the communities that you started to become a part of?
Yeah, there's a lot of different things you could do, right? So I did, like, let's say the Indo-Canadian Society of St. John. I'm a board member of the society, but if they needed somebody to sponsor because we're short of money, I'll say, JC Realty team, we would love to sponsor. Yeah, we put a banner there. I go on the stage, give a 2-minute speech, but that's all in the end. It's all give and take, right? Last week, we had a big event at the Delta, and a lot of people from different ethnicities from university. A lot of different people were there, and we just had calendars and Christmas goodies out, chocolates. I made packages, about 500 of those. All my packages had was a notepad, just stick on their fridge, my calendar with a pen and a couple of chocolates. I said, Merry Christmas, just spreading the cheer. So I'm not expecting a deal when I'm going to these events, but I want people to know, say, hey, I'm a very active member in the community. And yes, I'm a real estate agent as well who loves helping people. So whenever you or anybody needs help, I'm always there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just making it known. I think a lot of people assume that making yourself known has to be salesy, it has to be pushy, but you can do it in a very welcoming and inviting way. So I love that you've, been able to do that. Coming back to your first year, I'd love to unpack that because a lot of people are going to hear 54 deals and think that's a dream come true. And
Yes.
it is for anybody in their first year. So let's kind of walk through that and say, you were cold calling, you were doing all these activities. What did a day-to-day, schedule or routine look like for you? Knowing that you have a family and you just
Mhm.
moved there and you've got all these other priorities. I think many people struggle with priority management. What would
Yeah.
an average day look like for you in terms of prioritizing the right income producing activities?
Right. I think real estate, I tell this to everybody. Real estate is a demanding and tough business to be in. It needs your commitment, and that's a commitment that's 7 days a week. We're not talking 5 days a week here. And you don't have a boss or a manager or a director who is going to say, Jazz, how is your day looking today? Oh, what are your goals for this week or the next week, and so forth. So you don't have, and if you did a great job, you have a deal that closed, somebody's not going to give you a little pat on the back, say, great job, Jazz. You have to do it for yourself. So for me, when I started real estate, a lot of my friends, family, people said, oh, you probably work from home most of the time, not unless you have a showing. I said, no, 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 no. I I dress up in the morning. I take my kids to school. As soon as they're dropped off to school, I go to my office. I work out of my office no matter if I have one showing a day or I have 20 showings a day. My day remains the same. I actually, 8:45, I'm in the office every day and I stay there till 5. If I have evening showings, I go right from my office. And if not, I work till 5, because when I'm disciplined, you dress better, you feel better. And if I'm sitting in this chair in front of my computer, guess what? I'm going to find something to do in business, because if I'm home, oh, maybe I can have a cup of tea. Oh, let me empty my dishwasher. I just find a lot of distractions. So it's discipline that really worked for me, Mike. That has helped me. So if it was a nice day, I would say, okay, let me take a half hour or an hour. I'm going to do cold calling. And I would Zoom, like my office is pretty central where it's located. So I would just go and do that for an hour, come right back, grab myself a coffee, and then go check my emails or send emails out. My CRM was always up to date. So if I have a new person I met, or if I have a client that I closed a deal with, they go right into my CRM, which is KV Core that I use. And yeah, so that they can always hear from me if there's a birthday or anniversary. They get an email from me, they get a text message from me, and I have people come back to me saying, oh my God, I've had this house for 5 years. I forgot, Jas, it's our house anniversary. We're so overwhelmed just when you send those messages. You always stay on top of that. And I'm like, yeah, that's my job. I still remember, it seems like yesterday. So it's little things that do matter. But again, I think discipline in business is the key, no matter what business that is.
Yeah, I completely agree. People struggle oftentimes where the perception when people get into real estate is that it's so amazing because you get your own schedule, you can make your own time, you can go do whatever you want, and that oftentimes gets taken for granted. And that goes back to a concept that I'm a huge advocate of, is that most new agents don't have respect for themselves. They have
Right.
respect for authority and other people because when they were out there were 9 to 5, if their boss told them to do something, they would because they respect their boss. But if you
Right.
can't follow through with the commitments you make to yourself, what does that say about you? And that's where a lot of agents fall short, is that level of discipline.
Yeah.
Now, looking at 54 deals, there's kind of two different components I would love to talk about. You just alluded to one of them, which is the touch points. We'll come back to that.
Hmm.
But in order to get 54 deals, was it just cold calling every day? Did you do anything else aside from the networking? How were you finding the places to cold call? Like, what did that look like in order to start to build that level of momentum?
Yeah, so Mike, out of 54 deals, because I sat down and I did that exercise at the end of the year. I sat down and said, okay, what have I closed? I checked each client, each address, and put up beside it N for network, S for social media, C for cold call. So I put down how I kind of got my business in the first year. And you wouldn't believe 60 to 70% of my business in the first year came from networking. About 20% of that came in cold calling, which was primarily commercials. There's not many people that are comfortable doing commercial deals because you have longer sales cycle. You need to understand balance sheet, income statements, and so forth. And I own other businesses as well, so I'm used to reading those statements. So they never kind of scared me away. But to answer your question, I think networking and cold calling were my top two producers as far as my business goes first year.
That's so powerful. And again, it goes back to that concept that whatever you do consistently is what's going to be the fruit of your labor. And
Right.
many people are trying to do way too many things at once instead of just saying, "Hey, here's two things that I'm committed to. I'm going to be consistent with it." And when you're consistent with anything, you end up seeing the success from that.
Yeah.
Um, but going back to the touch points, I think that's where most agents struggle. You and I both know that, as long as you're disciplined and you put the work in, generating leads is very easy.
Yeah.
Once you get the client, that's where most agents struggle to scale because they go from one deal to the next deal to the next deal. And the most expensive client to get is a new one. The cheapest client to get is a repeater referral. And
Yeah.
so many people are completely ignoring that side of their business without realizing it's the easiest way to scale your business. So, what did it look like for you to start to build out those touch points, and what were some of those ones that you found were very valuable?
Yeah, I think having a CRM is the key, no matter which platform you use. Just make sure at least once a month you have a newsletter going out to your prospects or your clients. It's some people think it's more spam or junk. maybe for some people, but there is still a lot of potential because you want to make sure your name is in front of those clients regularly. Because if they are ever thinking of a realtor, you should be the top one in their mind right away. So for us to do that, yeah, an email every month is not a bad thing. So ideally, my this is what I said to myself when I got into this business. I said, if I do business with somebody, I have to have a touch point with them at least once a month. So 12 touch points via email, and then Christmas time, I'll send out a handwritten card. The Last year we did Christmas parties, so Christmas events for our clients. In the summer we did one which was open out in the public there, so it was a little bit easier to coordinate. But Christmas was very closed event just for clients who have given business to us at some point. We had Santa, people took pictures, and it was a hit. It's it takes a lot to coordinate those events sometimes. So I think a lot of realtors kind of just get a little pushback there, but it's not something you have to do. If you are calling them, have a list printed out. So I have a list of all my clients printed out. When I'm driving around, I just go through my list, and you won't get them all. Leaving a voicemail is as powerful as talking to somebody. And when I'm driving, because that's your best time to call people, right? We all have Bluetooth in our cars now. So you call your client and say, "Oh, hi, Bonnie. This is Jas. Just wanted to make sure everything is good. You're still enjoying your home. I really miss not seeing you anymore. But yeah, let's catch up for a cup of coffee if you have some time." It's just as easy as that. So that's a very strong touch point because that's your voice.
Yeah, I agree. And coming from it, I love you that you said just being able to catch up and grab a coffee and something value driven, because so many people assume that a touch point is, are you interested in buying or selling, or know anybody who is?
Yeah.
And that's where people, you know, tend to run away from that, follow up procedure, because they make the assumption that it has to be selfish, it has to be solicitational in nature, but it really doesn't.
Right.
So, coming back to something that I'm very curious about, and the reason why I'm curious about it is because I get this question so much, whether it's an ethnicity or whether it's a language. Many
Hmm.
people will say, "Mike, I'm hesitant to go all in with this language or this ethnic group because I don't want to alienate or miss opportunities with, maybe English speaking people, or, North American, descent." So, what was that like for you? Because I've got a couple takes on this, but I would love to know your perspective from just saying, okay, I know who I am. I'm confident in who I am. I know that I can tap into this community, which not everybody can. How
Hmm.
was that for you to kind of go all in on that?
Yeah, so I'm East Indian. I speak three languages. I speak English, Punjabi, and Hindi. So most of my clientele, yes, they are East Indians, but I also serve a lot of locals as well. And people, I've had clients from Africa, clients from the Philippines. So I think it's nice to specialize in one community for sure, because a lot of people feel comfortable, right? It's
Mhm.
language is another thing. Not everybody's going to be very fluent at English. So as a realtor, if you speak multiple languages, definitely it's a very helpful and powerful tool to have. But you cannot limit yourself to just that specific group, because you know uh, word travels really fast.
Yeah.
So especially being in a small community here, I'm very cautious when I do business with East Indian community, because I know I could, if I do a good job, they'll probably go tell five people. If I do a bad job, they'll probably go tell 50 people, right? So I just have to be always very cautious on that. And plus, then, I don't think it's fair to limit yourself to a specific community either. Because, as I said, for commercial, I have a lot of Korean clients, I have a lot of
Mhm.
local clients, right? So they just want an educated and professional realtor to help them with. They don't care where I'm from, they don't care what language I speak. And I think professionalism is one language that all realtors should have in common. Other than that, whatever you have is just, a feather to have.
I completely agree. That's so beautiful, because again, like you say, I think it's important to tap into a competitive advantage that you have that others don't,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that you're completely eliminating your opportunity elsewhere. And that seems to be the perception for a lot of agents. Now, something that a lot of agents that are coming off the back of success are curious about, and it's something that you've been able to do. So I'd love to kind of talk about it for a bit, which is starting a team. You know,
Yes.
so many people will see success and say, okay, I'm ready to start having people with me. But then there's all these obstacles that come into play. Most people that join a team don't execute at the level that you do, but you're expecting them to. And then it causes tension. And then you have to fill their pipeline. And there's all these kind of quirks about going to that next step in what most people consider the natural ascension in real estate. What was it like for you to start a team, and how did you start to find the right people to partner with you?
Yeah, and Mike, it's a real struggle, right? It's like having it's very similar to having people work with you, but now these are the people that work for their independent business owners, but they work on your team, right? So it team is not an easy thing. I'll say that to anybody who's looking at it, because I started a team because the way business was growing, I was starting to burn out, and I love to travel a lot too. So it just was something nice to have, because then I when people look at us as a team, they don't really care if you're away because they know there's other people to look after. When I had other agents look after my clients when I left, it was different because then they thought, oh, she's going to hand it off, me off to somebody else. But having a team is another set of commitment. You are dealing with business owners who are on your team. So, yes, they have expectations from you as a team lead. So, they're expecting leads, they're expecting mentorship, they're expecting coaching, which is all great. But again, as you said, the work style, the commitment, it's not the same for everybody. So as a team lead, yeah, if I show up to work every day and I go try to find my business, it is sometimes as a team lead, it's a bit hard to kind of, have that pushed to the team member, right? Because they probably don't have the same kind of goals or commitments as you do. So it is part of mentoring, part of coaching, and self reflection as well. Like I've had to stop myself a few times and say, okay, maybe I'm not being reasonable because, yeah, okay, this is my goal in life. I want to go here, but somebody's happy around here. They're fine, right? And they're trying. So maybe I'm being a little too pushy. So again, self reflection, just maybe step back a little bit and just put yourself in their shoes. So again, this is all part of managing, part of coaching, but yeah, team is it's hard. I've gone through multiple team members. I was with another brokerage before coming to EXP. So yeah, I think it has been a journey, and we're learning every day. We're learning personality styles, work styles, and we have an office. We have a team admin, and some people will use her for the paperwork. Some people like to do it themselves, right? So yeah, it's just about understanding each other and the personality types.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is, like you alluded to, setting realistic expectations, because I in the beginning, back in 2018 started a small team, and I was just too ignorant, I was too uneducated, and I thought everybody worked at the capacity that I did, and I thought that I could just let them run, and it just didn't work out, and I ended up folding the team, I think 3 or 4 months in, and tripled my production that year just based on channeling all of my effort into my own business. So, I've
Yeah.
seen both sides of it. And, for me, I can look back and say that I just simply wasn't ready. Um, but I know there are some people that are ready, and they just have to kind of manage those expectations and be realistic about, desires and what people actually want out of life, because not everybody wants to make half
Yeah.
a million or $1 million a year, and that's okay. And I thought ignorantly in the beginning, everybody in real estate wanted to make that. And that's where there was quite a disconnect.
Yeah, and I think if you're looking to create your 2.0, don't go with the team. That's not
Yeah.
what the team is there for. It is extra support that you have, and people that are looking for mentorship in real estate is why they join a team. So you're as a mentor, you're there to help them, support them, but you can really push them to do the business the way you do it.
Agreed. Agreed. Now, one of the other topics, Jazz, that I think is important going back to relocation is coming from Ontario, going to New Brunswick. Many people are, we already talked about how to build a foundation in a new market, but so many people are curious as to how to not completely ignore the previous market and the relationships you have there, and how do I, use that to my benefit? So what was it like for you to be able to capitalize on where you came from to benefit where you moved to?
Yeah, it was a culture shock, Mike. I worked in Mississauga in an IT company. It was go, 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 an hour in traffic each way every day. And then we come here and it's like, it's beautiful, but it's quiet. Like it's
It's much
peaceful,
slower.
but it's depressing quiet, right? So
Yeah.
it took us 6 months to a year just to wrap our head around. And we just thought, okay, we moved here for business. We bought a motel and we thought, okay, we'll run it for a couple of years because we can live here. We'll have to move back. And we even now we go to Toronto. My family's still there, so we go to Toronto like 6 7 times a year even now. So what we have done is we've taken the best of both worlds and incorporated into it. Like the first year when I started working corporate here in St. John, I was a sales manager for the field reps for one of the companies here, and I would travel and I'll go out with the guys, and one guy, an older guy, and again, this is something that we really need to learn as mentors and coaches is self-reflection, because you're operating the way you are and you're assuming everybody else will catch up. And then this guy, we come out of a sales call and he goes, Jess, can I say something to you? And I was like, sure, yeah, yeah, go ahead. He's like, you walk fast and you talk fast. So can you please not do that? And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I said, I apologize. I wasn't thinking. So that was one turning point for me, Mike, where I was like, okay, Jazz, you move to a different place. You have to adapt the culture. You have to blend in. You take what you have from where you're coming from. So I kept a lot of my work ethics, my business acumen, the way my personality is, and I'm still a lot different than people that have been born and raised here, but I think in a good way, right? Like people will look up to me. And I spoke at a woman in business event the other day, and you wouldn't believe, it was so rewarding. Women came up to me and said, "Oh my god, I got goosebumps when you were talking." Like, so you feel good about those things, and that's what keeps me going. I'm never going to, leave the culture that I have in me, but at the same time, I think I blended in well enough to where I moved. And now, if like, that's why I do business in both provinces, and I'm successful doing that. Because when I travel to Toronto, if I need to change my language, because a lot of people in Brampton don't speak English, so then I just switch, right? I
Yeah.
switch gears. And when I come back to New Brunswick, I'm again a very professional realtor as Jazz, who will talk to anybody that comes, and starts talking to me in English, right? So I think you have to be adaptable no matter which business you're in, because if you're not going to be adaptable or open to learning, it's going to be very hard to survive in today's world. And we have to accept that the world that we're in now, it's very fast and it's changing. So we have no other option but to catch up and keep learning every single day and get better.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, important because I felt the same. Every year after I moved to Calgary, I would go back to New Brunswick and I'd be driving down, some of the streets in Rothesay, and I'm like, why is everybody going so slow?
Yeah,
And that's where I grew up, and to me it was normal. But now, since it's different, much more fast paced life, and you have a different
right.
perspective, it's wild. But you have to adapt to it and be a bit of a chameleon. Now, let's talk about the investing side of things, because that's how I started to build my production pretty quickly, is through tapping into investors.
Mhm.
Oftentimes they're repeat clients, they're good referral clients, they want to do multiple deals. Um, and you alluded to the fact that you worked with investors from Ontario that were looking to move to New Brunswick. How were you finding the investors in Ontario? And then how were you identifying the right places in New Brunswick to invest? Because that seems to be a hesitation for a lot of agents saying, I just moved to this new market. How am I going to find the right places to invest in this area? What was that journey like for you?
Yeah, I think It was a bit different for me, Mike, because as I said, we moved here for business. So we bought a motel, and once we bought the motel, we started buying apartment buildings, and I kind of got into that business myself. So there's a lot of lessons we learned. It wasn't easy. It was like some of them were expensive lessons, but that's how you're shaped as a person or as a business person as well. So when I got calls from Ontario, a lot of calls that I got, to answer your question about how I was getting those calls, yeah, some came from my listings because I do, as I said, a lot of commercial or multi unit here in St. John. Some came from listings, but a lot of others, like, for example, people look at my name and they could tell I speak their language. So they, right off the bat, when they call me, they don't say hello, how are you? They say hello, and they start speaking in English, in Hindi or Punjabi. So it just comfort, I think it was, and so I did a lot of virtual tours during COVID times, and even people moving here. There was New Brunswick had a 2 week time of isolation for them, so they weren't allowed to leave their homes. And if somebody's house was closing, I had them go order on Superstore or Walmart's online account. I would go pick up groceries in my car. I'll have them all in the fridge in the kitchen, leave the key outside the garage door or somewhere safe, and then they're in the house for 2 weeks. So I think it's stuff that you do. And if I did that for 5, 6, 7 clients, I don't remember how many people they are going to tell that to, and how are those people going to reach out to? They're going to reach out to you. So as I said, don't always calculate what's in it for you. Like, is that immediate sale? Is that immediate dollar right there? It might not be, but it'll all come back to you when it's the right time. And for apartment buildings and investment portfolios, I tell people, I'm very honest when I'm doing virtual showings, and a lot of people are afraid because they don't see what we see. They don't smell what we smell. So we have to be very honest and say, listen, I've told my clients, if it was my money, I wouldn't buy it. Right. So that's how they start developing trust in you, and they'll just keep telling in the network. So that's how I've expanded in my multi unit portfolio.
Yeah, that's awesome. Always focusing on the relationship and serving and not getting caught up in selling, and looking at it so short-sighted. Now, at the time of this video coming out and our interview going live, it's going to be 2025, and so many people didn't hit 54 deals in 2024. Maybe didn't even hit 5.4 deals in 2024.
Mhm.
So from somebody that's been able to work with other new agents and help, them develop and flourish, and from you coming off the back of so many years of success, for anybody coming into this new year, what would be some of your best tips of advice be for an agent kind of starting fresh, opening a new chapter, but really wanting to crank it out this year and see a big explosion in their success?
Yeah, I would say you have a lot more tools now than we did when we started in real estate. So, to a new agent, because a lot of new agents sometimes get confused. Oh my God, there's a lot to do. How do I start? Like, how do I get started? One thing is, use the free tools you have. We all have social media. Stay active. Even if, like, I don't like to do videos myself, I'm pushing myself to do more and more of those. So step outside of your comfort zone first. That's your first rule. If you're going to do what you always have, maybe it's not the right business to be in, because we will get uncomfortable every single day, right? And that's what we're here to do, because that's what makes us feel get better at what we do. So yeah, use social media. Even if you put a story every day, show people that you're active, show people you're in business. The other thing is, set goals. You set annual goals, but then break them down to quarters, break them down to monthly, break them down to every week. So even being in the business for so many years, every Monday morning, I have my own goal sheet for the previous week. So I tell myself, and there's columns: listing ends, buyer ends, new listings, multi-unit listing, commercial listing. And I'll tell you, every time I put a zero there, it hurts
Yeah.
and just gives me motivation to get better for the next week, right? So just set up goals for yourself that are realistic. Don't, I wouldn't say, I didn't put 54 deals for myself either the first year. I put 25 deals, and I had a coach that I was working with at the time, and then we had to reset my goal in 6 months because it was looking great. So be realistic for your first year. Don't really beat yourself up. Um, do what you said you'll do. If you say, okay, I'm going to do 10 cold calls, in person cold calls every week, and then maybe 20 phone calls, then please stick to that. Because if you're going to keep doing what you said you're going to do, there's no way you will not be successful at the end of the year.
Yeah, I agree. And it, you know, what you said about the tracking sheet is so important. What gets measured gets managed. And so many people are just, you know, floating through their business and their calendar. They have no idea where their
Yeah.
work's coming from and they have no idea what's working, what's not. And then they get to the end of the year with no answers, wondering why they didn't hit their goals. And,
Right.
you know, as you alluded to, you were able to very strategically realign your goals 6 months in because you knew the numbers and that it looked different. But so many people, you know, could catch themselves not being on track 3 months in if they were actually tracking and looking at the data.
Yeah, like real estate is about helping people. It's about building your book of business, and it's automatically going to be built if you're good at it. But at the end of the day, it's the paycheck that we all take home. We have a family to feed, and if as your income goes up, your lifestyle changes too, right? So that's
Yeah.
automatically going to happen. But I ask a lot of realtors sometimes, "Oh, how's your year so far?" "Oh, I don't really measure it. Oh, I don't check." And I'm looking, shaking my head, saying, okay, what business are you in again? Like, so you have to always know where you stand because it's the paycheck at the end of the year that's going to go home and you got to be able to pay your bills.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And optics is huge. That's something that I'm working on relentlessly and religiously because, you know, if you can't make calculated changes, you know, you know that you're not on track by March, but if you don't know you know, what those numbers look like,
Yeah.
you find out in December and you wasted an entire 3 quarters of a year when you didn't have to. You could have course corrected. And so many people fall short on that.
Yeah.
So, as we kind of pull this full circle, Jazz, so many people, you know, you built a successful team, you've done so well for yourself, and you ended up making the transition over to EXP. And many people are going to be curious as to, you know, what sparked that transition to come over and partner with us. But also for people looking for that mentorship like you had in your first year that was so successful, what can people expect when partnering with you as well?
Yeah, for sure, Mike. So I think we always have to have a coach in life. No matter how good you are, we always have to have that person to look up to, right? Once we reach that level, then look for the next mentor and so forth. And I moved to EXP from a traditional brokerage. I've always been with one brokerage before EXP. I've never been a hopper. I believed in the model, and the model is we're in business, and you have to make your business successful yourself. But the big thing that was a game changer for me, why I switched to EXP, is the people that you surround yourself with. As I said, I'm a very positive person. I stay away from negativity. I'm very, focused on my business. It's all about what's in it for me, because my time is my money, right? So I found it was very, I was starting to get a little lame, just because you go to the office and people are like, oh, whatever, market is down, it's crappy, blah blah blah. So your energy automatically starts to go down.
Yeah.
And I knew I had to get better at videos. I knew I had to get better at social media. So that was my ask from a previous brokerage is, guys, we really need to get better at that. I need training. I need training. I've been asking that for a few months now. But not to their fault, they just didn't have the resources. So when I looked at EXP and looked at what that had to offer, yeah, it's all there. It's how much you want to learn. It's all there. So I just finished your 5-day YouTube course, and it is amazing. I thought I had a YouTube channel set up. No, no. I had a lot of good key points out of that training, and that's so far has been one of the best, things that I've spent time on. So I think it's surrounding yourself with the right people. And where I said I practice in 2 provinces, so if I need support, we got great groups. I'm listing a property in Ottawa in the spring. I put it in the group saying, hey, anybody available to help me because I need somebody to co-list it with me. I got an answer like that. We're all set, right? To go. So it's resources. I'm an IT person. I like technology. I want to use it, but I need to be able to know where it exists, right? And here it all exists. And about being a coach, I would love to help anybody who is looking to get into this business get successful at that business, because there's a lot of things that I wish I had known when I started real estate. You know, we all learn. Some things come, they just don't come to you easy, and it didn't come to me easy either. So if I can make somebody else's life easier, if they're passionate about real estate, want to get successful, I would love to help them out.
That's beautiful. Well, again, it goes back to that concept that if nothing changes, nothing changes. And so many people didn't have the 2024 they were expecting. And sometimes it takes that change of environment and ecosystem and surrounding of who you're around in order
Yeah.
to make that, that to be the catalyst for your growth. And, I've seen, what you've been able to do to help others. And there's a lot of people that can benefit from that. So guys, make sure that you click the link in the description to book your private conversation with Jas. Ask anything and everything, because again, we're here to serve. We want to help. We genuinely care. And the best thing that you can do is learn from people who have been there, done that multiple times over, with people just like you, and aren't trying to reinvent the wheel, but rather stay on the leading edge and give you exactly what works based on today's market. So Jas, thank you so much again.
Thank you for having me, Mike. It was a pleasure.
Likewise. Again, thank you guys so much for listening. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Go check out Jas's incredible comment in the description, and we'll see you in the next video.